Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I'm your host, Conrad Iacobellis. It is August, which means that it is starting to become back to school. And right now, we are so privileged to be joined by the superintendent for the North Summit School District, Jerre Holmes. So, Jerre, thank you so much for joining us. And we're just going to talk about, back to school stuff, because you're kind of the overseer for the whole shebang down there, right?
Right. Yes, we're getting ready.
So, when do you guys start back to school?
August 23rd.
August 23rd. And any tips, pointers you want to give out to maybe some kids starting in elementary school or moving to middle school or even moving to your high school?
Well, I think if they have any questions, our elementary and middle school, they're open and they can go check with those in charge of those buildings, and high school as well. And I'm sure everyone has gotten their school shopping almost complete, and hopefully it will meet our standard, and it's pretty simple. If they're ready to go to school, we're ready to have them.
And is there anything you want to say to parents who may be worried about sending their kids off to school? Because it can be kind of a scary thing, you know?
It is a scary thing for the young ones especially, or those who are going from one school to another. Those who move in, it is scary. And I think what they'll find at North Summit is a welcoming staff, great kids, and there's a niche for everyone if they'll just dig in and go find it.
And just to kind of give some insight on what a superintendent does, I know in Lake Tahoe Unified School District in California, we had Dr. Tarwater as our superintendent. And I know whenever he was on campus, it was like everyone on their best behavior, we have the superintendent. So what exactly does the superintendent do?
Well, I do oversee, I'm in charge of the education that takes place with our 1,000+ students, and I oversee our principals who are in charge of their buildings, and the real meat of our staff is obviously the teachers, and we just make sure that we provide them what they need in order to serve our kids. And
how many kids do you guys have in the school district?
About 1,100. We're close to 1,100.
Oh, not bad at all.
No, we're small.
Yeah, that's kind of a nice group because you kind of get intimate with that way, and that's how I felt growing up in Tahoe, where it was nice because everyone kind of became brothers and sisters, and everyone knew who each other was, and we were very familiar with the teachers, and the teachers were very familiar with us. I just want to ask, do you kind of do the process of picking out teachers, and what makes a good teacher, in your opinion?
Well, I think obviously the surface of a teacher is they have to know their content, but I think deeper than that is we want people who care about kids. We want them to be passionate about what they do. I've always felt like if you wake up in the morning excited to go to work, then you're in the right business. And we want our teachers to care about kids, and they do. And sometimes it's heartbreaking when you care so much. And yet that's what we really, if they care, they're going to want them to get the content. They're going to want them to be prepared for the tests. But much deeper than the tests, we're concerned about safety of kids, their confidence. We want them to know that they're cared about, that we love them, and that they can be successful.
And speaking about caring for the kids, this is something that is very close to home with me. You are a big advocate for mental health awareness in the classroom, and this is ranging anywhere from depression to anxiety to ADHD. Is this something new you guys are trying to implement into schools? Is this caring for mental health awareness, or is this something you've always been trying to push?
Well, I think it's something that's always been on our minds, but as of the last few years, it's obviously a much more transparent issue, which I'm grateful for. We're much more educated than we were in the past about all of the mental health issues. We initiated a program not long ago that I call I Swear, and I call it a program, but it needs to be more of a culture where we swear to make sure that every kid is okay. And that's a difficult task because every student arrives at our buildings with maybe a little different issue than another. And you're right, the anxiety, the depression, they are real, and I think they've been with us forever, but we're just much more educated on it. And what I've noticed the last few years is it reaches even the younger grades.
Oh, totally.
And so we're doing our best. We just added an elementary counselor to our staff, and Valley Mental Health is great to help us. But it's a large task, but it's probably the most important thing we can help with.
Well, and I remember, growing up in school, and sometimes mental illness wasn't so much a shunned subject back then. It was still kind of, one of those things where it's like, well, if we talk about it, then it's going to kind of become real. And I think one thing that bugged me as a kid growing up was the fact that sometimes you would get teachers who would be like, well, at least you don't have to worry about this, and that's not how you should approach it. It should be a kid, for as young and naive they may be, it's scary growing up. There's a lot of pressure, especially now in today's society where there's social media, there's phones. It's so much easier, to get word of mouth about rumors or anything. And so I think it's important, and I'm sure you are pushing this with your teachers, not to look at a kid and go, well, at least you don't have to worry about this yet or something. It's very much, if a kid comes up in need, you're there to help them, and you are trying to make a kid feel comfortable, and no matter what situation they're in.
Well, you're right. They sometimes don't know what's going on with them, and where we're trying to become more educated and helping them become educated, I think it will allow them to help themselves. But yeah, if we're not understanding and compassionate about what they're going through, then we can't help them. And obviously there are deeper levels that we aren't professional enough to handle, but if we know, we have the right avenues now to help them.
And having a kid with, it's scary being like, oh, my kid has a mental health, disease or something. I mean, disease might be a strong word, but it's okay for a kid to feel different, or even to not be okay, almost like that's just the growing up process, And so are you trying to help kids see signs of maybe some symptoms they may have, or is this very much a, we're gonna do this in private, or is this very much like classroom settings, like, guys, if you're feeling this way, come talk to us?
Absolutely. If it is private for the student, then we keep it private. But as far as educating the kids as a whole, we want them to understand that this is real, that it's okay, it's not a sign of weakness. And if other students who maybe don't experience it at least have an understanding of it, I think they'll be a little more empathetic to those situations that do occur. But we just want our kids to know that it's real, and that we understand that, and that we're there to help them.
And as growing up, I was diagnosed with being bipolar when I was 13 in 8th grade, and growing up with anxieties and social, like I was very uncomfortable around my peers just because I had anxiety. It's okay to not feel okay, and help is there, and you guys are pushing that. You guys, you're inviting kids in, which I think is a huge step. You said you had a counselor for elementary school. For middle school students and high school students, is there a counselor they can go to, or is this more go to a teacher and then they'll direct them to a service? Well,
it depends. Sometimes the teacher does initiate it, but a lot of times the student will go right to the counselor. It's an open door policy, obviously, and so, yeah, we just try to keep all of the doors open for kids to get help. They don't know sometimes. I've felt the anxiety. I've awakened in the morning worried about something that I don't even know what I'm worried about. And
oh, totally.
And it's confusing. And we want our kids and our adults to understand that this is life, and there are ways to deal with it, and the best thing we can do is be a support system.
And it's something that no one should be ashamed of feeling.
Correct.
At all. And I'm sure not only should the counselors and teachers be there to support, but other students can be there to support everybody else, right?
Correct. It needs to be treated like the flu. I just don't feel good today. It's not that I'm sick physically. I'm mentally not well today, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally. Jerre, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I think it's so inspiring and just awesome, for lack of a better word, that you are bringing, you know, this mental health awareness to classrooms, because again, growing up, especially in that teenager time where hormones are going on and everyone's changing, stuff like that is almost normal. It's almost weird if someone's not going through that at that age, and especially, as I said, with technology and with Facebook and Instagram and social media, there's so much more pressure kids may feel these days. So thank you so much for bringing this to your school district, and as superintendent, especially doing this. I mean, you're the head honcho, so seeing the top guy on the totem pole bringing this down is just amazing and awesome. So thank you so much for bringing that to classrooms.
Thanks for having me.
So guys, again, it's back to school. We hope that everyone feels comfortable enough talking about these topics with their kids, with teachers and fellow students. It's something that you should not be ashamed of. It's something that is normal, in that, you know, it's almost like changing and going through puberty. It's just something that happens, and don't be scared about it. Stay tuned to more Mountain Morning Show. We will have Nuzzles and Co. here with my newly adopted family members, so stay tuned after the break.